Hi, my name is Alison Berrett, and from as early as I can remember, the one thing I wanted to be able to do was to draw. I'm not exactly sure what I meant by that as a child, but I just loved drawing, and that has developed into drawing and painting, and I think mark making has been the biggest area of my kind of creative expression from a very young age. I grew up in a seaside town called Weston-super-Mare in Somerset in the UK, and went to an ordinary primary school, secondary school. Didn't do particularly well, unexpectedly actually, which was a big shock when I was 16. Biggest sort of failure of my life so far, I think. But from that, I picked myself back up and discovered that, my clan, my tribe, were the art students that I used to see walking up Weston-super-Mare High Street with their boxes full of art equipment and their vintage sort of charity shop clothes and huge portfolios, and that's where I kind of then headed. So I went to Western College of Further Education to do my foundation course, and then I ended up in a strange kind of twist of things doing graphic design at Exeter College of Art and Design, because I had no idea really what fine art was. I was kind of scared by it. I didn't understand what it was, and I felt as though I needed to do something where the art was applied to something so that I could, earn a living. So I ended up on this quite sort of, I had quite a high reputation actually, this graphic design course, and I'd managed to sort of blag my way onto it, I think, because even though my work was unsuitable, I think the head of the course was very much into colour, apparently, and I'd had a sort of bit of a tip-off about that. So I think from that age on, I recognised that colour was something I really related to as well, and could access, could sort of use as a way in to get somewhere as well, perhaps. So I think they took a bit of a risk accepting me onto the course, but it turned out to be pretty much a sort of personal disaster, actually. I failed a lot and was humiliated in some of the sort of group crits and that sort of thing, and was quite miserable. And I just thought, if I carry on, I'm going to end up coming out of here with a degree in graphic design and getting a third at best, which was not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to kind of repeat this pattern of just failing at things. So anyway, I, through the encouragement of a couple of friends, one of whom became my husband actually, and still is, we kind of put together a portfolio, because they were both on the fine art course and recognised that my work was far more suited to fine art than it was to graphics. So kind of put together a portfolio, and the fine art tutors agreed to see me, and it was the most positive experience that I'd had so far. I mean, they were so enthusiastic about my work and instantly said, yes, we want you on the course, but you will have to go back to do your second year again, because we don't think that if you just do your third year, you've got enough material to be able to put together a degree show. You've basically only got 2 terms to do that. So we want you to be able to have as much chance as possible to develop your work. So I did that. It meant I went back and had to retake my second year, which meant I lost the grant that I had. By that time, I was married to the guy that had helped me get onto the course, and short of cash, ended up selling a painting, and then some incredibly kind people just in a sort of random coincidence said they met up with me because they were at an event in Exeter, and listened to my story about what had happened, and that I wasn't going to be able to carry on doing the course without this money to pay my fees. And a few days later they wrote to me and said that they felt they should support me, so they gave me the money, which was amazing. I mean, just amazing to do that. So I completed a fine art degree, and it was like coming home. I mean, it was incredible. I had tutors that were saying lovely things to me, people who said things like, I can't believe you've never used oil paint before. It looks like you've used it all your life. Showing me artists. I could go to the library and have a look at all these amazing artists. I could relate to them. And then I started going out with a fellow student to the beach, and we went out during some of the most horrendous storms of 1989 and 91, and we were on the beach in sort of hurricane force winds, and at other times as well, but it was usually pretty blustery cold weather. And through that experience I learnt to kind of get marks down really quickly. I just had to capture this idea of movement and what was going on around me, and the sounds and the wind and the colours really, really quickly. Just had to respond quickly because I just couldn't be out there for very long. So there are paintings that I've done that were sort of 20-minute slapping it on, sand encrusted into it, making very quick decisions about what colours to use. And it was an incredible transformational experience, actually, that has continued to influence the work that I do now, which is, 30 odd years later. So, yeah, just thinking about biggest influences, I think, I guess I was interested from a very young age in the Impressionists, actually. That was my first kind of doorway into art, coming from a kind of working class background. We didn't have much money as a family. We didn't go to big events. We didn't travel. We didn't, there's a lot of things we didn't do that give a lot of people experiences of, art galleries, education, that sort of thing. So I, we had some books about the Impressionists around, and my dad was really into Turner, and Rain, Steam and Speed was up on the walls, I remember. And, he also liked Bruegel, and he liked all those kind of little people always doing things, always very full and busy, and a sort of activity in things. And he was also very interested in photography, and I think he was a very frustrated photographer, but I think that had an influence on me as well. And I took up photography. I always had a camera in my hand from a very young age. My brother, in fact, bought me a little 110 camera, if anybody can remember that size of film. And so taking photographs has always been something I've loved doing, kind of capturing pictures, looking around me and seeing what I can make into a picture. And then when my dad, was interested in photography as well, he gave me one of his old SLR cameras, and I was able to just go for it with, taking pictures on a decent camera. I was part of a photography club at sixth form. Loved the whole developing photos, seeing what happened to them in the dark room. So there was a sort of mystery about that as well, and creating pictures. So that's something that I still do. Taking photographs is a massive part of what I do. And I've got huge numbers of photographs on my phone. Some have been printed out, all filling up my computer, filling up hard drives. They're but I do use them, and they're a way of kind of taking in and recording what's out there in the landscape. But yes, I think, so my dad was there in those sort of influences. My mum was a very creative person, but not in the sense of making art. She was just kind of resourceful, creative-minded, and worked hard. And so I think that's rubbed off on me. And then moving on to artists, yes, the Impressionists. And then when I was at art college, I was very taken by Joan Erdley and Ivan Hitchens. I wrote my thesis about Ivan Hitchens. And there we've got the kind of landscape and seascape thread, which is what I'm working on these days now. So Ivan Hitchens, big influence, and also because I related to the kind of marks he was making, and I could feel those marks being similar to the way that I naturally painted. And then Joan Erdley, who exposed herself to these huge weather fronts and, up in Cataline in Scotland, as well as the pictures that she did while she was in Glasgow of the children, and the way she painted, just the sort of rawness and getting things down on the canvas quickly and intuitively, I think has really informed me. Lots of influences, too many to mention really. I mean, I love people like Helen Frankenthaler, Joan Mitchell, lists and lists, probably too many, but what I'm focusing on right now, I guess, is really exploring those two threads of landscape and coast, and the fact that I live inland and yet I have this real pull towards the coast and grew up by the sea is something that I think is in my work. There's a connection between all landscape and seascape and skies and sea, and the fact that it's a huge body of water basically above my head. Where I look out from my studio, I have this huge sky around me, and I watch the colours changing daily. I also am very influenced by the sort of physical world and the concepts of the physical world, the fact that the earth goes around the sun and it creates these kind of rhythms, and we have the sun rising every day and sun setting every day, and the fact that it changes position, the way the moon changes position, the way sometimes you have the sun and the moon. All of these things are what fascinate and intrigue me, and the beauty of it all, not just the visual beauty either, it's the kind of idea that this is held together somehow, and how the rhythms work together and how gravity pulls things together. Just all of that. I do have a son who studied physics, and I think, it's very much art, physics, science, very much the same thing, really. I'm just trying to paint as much as possible. One of the biggest challenges of being an artist, I would say, is earning a living, really. Some people don't have to earn a living, but there's a lot of us that do, and I've had to kind of work my way towards getting to this position where I am making art most of the time and doing other things the other times. I still teach because I love it, and I do enjoy teaching, but I do it also because I have to earn some bread and butter money, because it's hard to find ways to make money through selling art. And I've had, some success with that over the years, but it's sporadic. So that's a challenge, and just the challenge of keeping going, even if no one's looking at what you're doing, even if nobody hears you or sees what you've done or reads your book or listens to your music. That's a massive challenge. Do I listen to music whilst yes, I always pretty much always have music on. I need it to kind of cancel out the voices that make life difficult for me, that stop me from painting. It helps to neutralise the kind of atmosphere so that I'm not thinking about doing other things or getting distracted. But it also creates an energy, I think. So I quite often listen to loud music, but sometimes not. But I do think music is very important to me. I love listening to BBC Six, but I do sometimes put my own playlists on and listen to specific music. The best reaction someone's had to my artwork, I would say I've had a lot of lovely responses to my artwork. I love it when people can relate. When recently someone looked at my work and said, wow, it's abstract, but it's not. And that was really exciting for me. But also, back in 2004, I submitted some work for a show at Oxford, Modern Art Oxford. They were celebrating 40 years and they wanted local people who lived in Oxfordshire to submit work for an exhibition they were going to hold. And it was the fact that I sent these old slides from my degree show and they were accepted. And I had a phone call from Andrew Nairn, who was the director of Modern Art Oxford at the time, saying they wanted to put my work in this exhibition, and I was absolutely astonished. And then further to that, we knew that there was going to be a prize available, which a businessman was proposing, and he was building a gallery in Oxford in the castle sort of complex that was being redeveloped, and he wanted to give a prize to somebody to have a solo exhibition there. So, that was up as part of it. Anyway, I didn't even think twice about that. But then on the night of the opening in the private view, not only was it exciting to see my work on the walls, and I think that someone had bought one or had asked, was interested in buying one, but there was this little yellow plaque next to it, and Mark noticed it, my husband, and he said, "You've won the prize." And I went and looked at it and I could not believe what I was reading anyway. So, that was an amazing response to my work, that they gave me the prize for this solo exhibition that happened a year or so later. So that was amazing. What do I hope people take away from my artwork? I think I want people to find a connection between themselves and the natural world, I think. Honestly, I think this planet, this place we live on, is the most beautiful thing. It was made, or it happened to sustain and create us. Not create, but create resources, but also to be somewhere we could live in harmony. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's being ruined, and I want people to see how wonderful it is and how important it is that we come back to it, and that we kind of come back to the garden, as Joni Mitchell sung about. Something of that mystery and yearning of being a human being in this life, and how beautiful life is, how tragic life is, how painful, but how wonderful. I think that's what I'd like people to get from it, and to want to look at it and want to feel it in themselves. If anybody wants to have a look at my work, it's on my website, which is www.alisonberrettartist.com. I'm also on Instagram, which is at Alison Berrett Artist. And I have various teaching things coming up. I'm running a workshop at the end of February in Oxford, and I'm doing art weeks again this year as well in Oxfordshire. I'm working with somebody who is hoping to create some opportunities for me to exhibit and sell more of my work more widely. So do, keep watching this space. And you can either subscribe to my mailing list through my website or follow me on Instagram.